Way to go. That's a slow.
That's funny. Yeah.
Way to go.
And you, we are all dismissed. You're all dismissed. Thank you.
Yes, if nobody wants to stay for the meeting, you're more than welcome to leave at this time.
Congratulations to all of you.
Yes, all of you.
Well, we know how to thin out a room.
Yes, we do. And next, we will have a presentation by the Miami Conservatory District.
Spoke with Michael, and his members of the staff, over the last couple of weeks, and we thought it would be good to update the council on some of the, activities that we have with the Miami Conservancy District, and things that have coming up. And, really just, also, appreciate the support of the city of Orange. We've been providing flood protection for the region for over 100 years now. Dayton is one of our largest communities, but it's our smaller communities also that are protected and provide operational dollars for the Miami Conservancy. So I've got a number of slides here. You also have a packet. You should have a packet on your desk that has a lot of information. It's really intended, for you to look at later, but you're certainly welcome to open it up now and start asking me questions if you want. But I've got a presentation to go through here, and feel free to ask any questions along the way. And just as a recap, the Miami Conservancy District is a watershed-based organization. We were formed after the 1913 flood, and we've evolved a little bit to also not only do flood protection, but also.
Oh, I'm not, thank you. Now I'm turned on. in addition to flood protection, watershed stewardship, improving the water quality that we have, that we drink, that we rely on, that businesses need, that families need, that schools need. And it's really important that we protect our aquifer, our groundwater systems, but also the river itself. It's a really healthy, thriving waterway, and we're fortunate to have that. And we try to do work to help inform folks about that. And then also we have we actually maintain about 35 miles of bike trails. From Dayton through Monroe, I'm getting all my Great Miami River communities mixed up, all the way down to Monroe, although there is a gap in Monroe, and we're trying to help close those gaps so that you can literally, potentially get on the bike trail from Piqua and go down to Hamilton. And Hamilton County is also working on a Great Miami River recreational trail, so you could potentially, when that's done, go all the way to the Ohio River if you wanted to from Moraine once we actually close all these gaps. But really what I'm here to talk to you tonight about is our flood protection system. And actually this does not look like it came out very well. So I have got other slides that are gonna hopefully work out for us. So this is a quick video. It's 90 seconds, and it'll just give you a good flavor of what we do and some of the challenges that we have. So I'm gonna play that right now.
In 1913, our region endured catastrophic flooding, with water rising to 20 feet, washing away homes and businesses. To prevent such tragedy, the Miami Conservancy District built a world-class flood protection system, designed by local leaders and constructed with local funds, safeguarding families from the fury of rising rivers. While other cities fear flooding and face destruction, our communities thrive along the river. For over 100 years, the system of dams, storage basins, and levees has offered unparalleled protection, stopping floodwaters more than 2,100 times. But the impacts from weather trends and aging infrastructure are increasing destructive flood events across the U.S. We are not immune to this fate. The number of times the Miami Conservancy District system has prevented flooding has increased more than 200% in recent decades. These extreme conditions cause added stress and maintenance needs. The flood protection system now requires crucial repair, reinvestment, and rehabilitation. After the devastating Great Flood, people came together in an unmatched show of community spirit to build the flood protection system with the promise, never again. To keep that promise, the mission of the Miami Conservancy District is critical to the region's safety and quality of life.
And so I'm going to go by, these images are not showing up very well. Ultimately, we have, had the 1913 flood resulted in some cases, we had 25 feet of water throughout the region. And within the, just Hamilton County, Montgomery County alone, there's about $3.4 billion worth of property that's protected up and down the river, just in Montgomery County. In the city of Monroe, about $219 million worth of properties protected by this very conservatively.
No,
I'm sorry?
She meant Moraine.
you meant Moraine.
Moraine, yeah, city of Moraine. I'm sorry, did I say Monroe again? We're in Moraine. So it's $219 million in the city of Moraine. What's protected is throughout the whole system. We protect about 5 counties, and so that's again Miami County, Montgomery County, Warren County, Butler County, and Hamilton County. It makes up about a million people that are protected. 47,000 properties are protected by our system. In total, it's about $10 billion worth of property. In addition, we've got several hospitals and schools and roads and wastewater treatment plants, and individual cities and municipalities aren't necessarily paying for the properties that the cities or the municipalities or the counties own. It's more about all of the properties that are protected, and a portion of that is attributed to each of the jurisdictions. So my slides are really not showing up this well on this system for some reason. I apologize for that. But enough is showing on here that is helpful. And so the river corridor, this is showing a picture of northern Dayton. And so the difference that this is showing is some blue areas and peach areas. So on this map, this is showing where we have full protection, and we have full protection in these areas with peach because we have levees. We have higher banks of the river, and those are reinforced with really strong structures, but they are 100 years old. But we do consider that's full protection because we have that extra layer of the levees there. In other areas north of the cities or south of the cities, we might not have levees, and so they're just protected by our 5 upstream dams. They still are protected, but we consider that partial protection. So those individual properties that are benefiting from the flood protection system are paying an assessment every year through their taxes. And how that was determined actually dates back to when the 1913 flood happened. We had a lot of surveyors and engineers out, and we have high water marks and historical records to know how deep the flooding was, and then that was used to design the system that we have today. And so the flood protection assessments are very, very focused specifically on the property in question and how much flood water was on there then, because then we had to design and construct the system that we still maintain today for the benefit of that property. So that is how we are funded, through individual properties as well as different units of government. So we have 21 communities and 5 counties that also contribute to the flood protection system, and it's based on what are the properties in that jurisdiction that are protected, and then again, it's a calculation. And I'm going to share with you what Moraine is currently contributing, and then a process that we're going through right now to update the benefits, because we were ordered by our conservancy court to do that, and there's a conservancy court that has overall jurisdiction of our rates and our budget and has to vote on things like that. But I want to point out that our flood protection system, because we have it, entities, individuals don't have to have flood insurance, or it might reduce the cost of flood insurance. So, and I just did some research, the average annual premium for flood insurance is about $900 a year, and which is a pretty substantial amount. And that's insurance, that's not necessarily protecting you. That's, you know, only going to help you if you actually have damage. So again, as I mentioned, we are governed by first a conservancy court. There's 9 counties that make up the Miami Conservancy District, and within each county there's a judge from the Common Pleas that serves on the Conservancy Court. They meet at least annually. They have to get a chief engineer's report from our chief engineer, and also hear like what the problems or the issues or the challenges that we're facing, so that then they ultimately have to approve any rates that are associated with our assessments. We have a board of directors and then also a board of appraisers. They're an entity, again, that established originally this methodology that we use to calculate benefits, and then we use that to develop the assessments. And again, this is all required by state law, that we have the board of appraisers and the Conservancy Court and board of directors. One thing that we've done differently at the Conservancy District since the beginning of 1915, when we were created, was that we also have a board of consultants, and these are international dam and levee experts on flood protection that we rely on for, you know, hard questions of, you know, what assets we need to really focus on, or we want to try this design, what do you think? And so we're really unique in what kind of organization we are too, because we're multi-jurisdictional. Again, trying to keep all of these cities and communities straight. I'm sorry that I've butchered that for you tonight, but Moraine is a really important partner for us. In 2020, the Conservancy Court required us to go through what's called a readjustment of the appraisal of benefits. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about what that is. So essentially what it is, it's state law does not allow us to do it any more frequently than once every 6 years. So right now, and so they determined there's been a material change in property value or condition. And so the readjustment was ordered in 2020, but at that same time, Butler County was appealing their property value at the state level. And so we didn't want to, we chose to hold off on that, because if there was property values in question, that's a big part of our calculation. So we held off on it. That was resolved, though, in September of '23. So now we're proceeding with this, with the process. Currently, we're collecting assessments or assessing properties for flood protection based on 2012 property values and property conditions. Because there's been a lot of change since then, and if you can see some of these pictures on my screen, these are new buildings or new developments that have happened since 12, and right now they're paying as if it was either an abandoned property or a vacant lot, and they're getting flood protection benefits, but they're not paying in an equitable manner based on the methodology we have. So we're going through this process right now, and still obtaining the 2023 property values from the different county auditors and going through the methodology. And so we are currently in the process of finalizing what's called the readjustment of the appraisal benefits, which is a certified record to submit to the for a public notice. And we anticipate submitting that public notice through papers, and we're going to do postcard mailings, and we've already been doing a lot of outreach like this, as well as going to the chambers or Rotaries and different places to just try to get the message out of the fact that we're doing this. We're anticipating in March that we would be doing the public notice, and that's when we'll also have a website, a web page on our website that people can put in their parcel ID, name or address, and get their what their benefit is, but then also what their assessment is. So we'll be sharing more of that information. Again, unfortunately, my slides aren't showing up well, but you probably, you can see the top part. And so we're seeing the top of the watershed there, and what we see is Lockington Dam, and then Pickwa and Troy. And if we saw the whole thing in your packet, you do actually have this same visual, I think on the inside cover of the deed here is this visual. And you can see that Moraine has, in the proximity of Moraine is a levee system. So we have 5 dry dams, 55 miles of levees, a lot of floodgates. So when the river's backing up, we actually are closing a lot of those gates so that we don't back up cities behind the levees. We also have 35,000 acres of land upstream of our dams that we purchased the rights to flood those properties over 100 years ago. So there's restrictions on what can be put in those properties. And again, it's for the benefit of these downstream communities. And that was the overall plan of the Miami Conservancy District's infrastructure. So what are the risks of the system? We have, because we actually have not had an increase in our revenue over that period of time, from 2012 to 2022, we've had flat revenues. So that is a risk because we have increased needs, increased costs, and we need to be able to address those. We also had the 3-year delay with the readjustment. We were planning to do that earlier. Because we couldn't do that, we've had to dip into the cash reserves that we've had, and we're still at the level where we need to have those, but we're at the level where our board policy is to have at least the cash reserves of 6 months of our assessments that we collect, and we're right about that right now. We also had a capital assessment, but that expired in 2022. So we have no incoming dollars to make repairs on like some of those dams that you saw or the levees that you saw in the video. We don't have money to do that. We also have had increased rainfall, and as a result of that increased rainfall and runoff, when you look at every decade, this blue chart with the arrow going up, that is the number of times we've stored water behind our dams every decade, and as you can see, it's gone up 228% over the last 80 years. So our assets are older, they have they're aging infrastructure, they have issues, and now we're making them work harder and have to deal with more water than they were in the beginning, so that creates added stress. Now, the good news is we have made investments over the last 20 years to reduce the risk of failure, but we're not done. We have more to do. We've completed through 22 about $24.5 million. We do have some remaining dam safety money left, and what we're trying to do is actually get some state capital money. We have a request in for about $10 million from the state capital bill to try to make repairs to Germantown, Englewood, and Taylorsville, 2 of which are upstream of Moraine. This is construction work that we did in Lockington Dam, that most northern dam that we have. We've also done a lot of work to reduce the water underneath all of the dams. It's called underseepage. That causes some risk if that was to get, go through freeze and thawing, that could cause risk of the dam failure. So we've addressed that. We've installed a lot, actually over 200 relief wells at our dams to help reduce that risk. But again, there's more that needs to get done. This picture in the middle that you can see is Germantown Dam, where last March we actually lost a part of the wall at Germantown Dam. So this is stuff that we don't want to have happen. At one point, these dams were also very beautiful structures, and they're really in need of some reinvestment. So that's kind of setting, just to kind of help you understand what we have, what we do, and now I'm going to kind of go back to like the readjustment of benefits and just some preliminary findings that we have. We're still crunching numbers, we're still looking at the impact, but I wanted to be able to share with you just three different examples. And again, just kind of bear with me. I'm trying to think if I've got a visual that has the picture. I don't think I do, but the difference here, the picture that you're not seeing is, again, that difference between the blue and the peach area. So where we have in Moraine, I think it's about, I meant to check this number before coming, but I think that Moraine is, let's just say, for example, I think it's close to like 60 or 70% fully protected, as opposed to the rest of it being partially protected. So again, if you're fully protected, you got a levee protection, and as a result, here's some examples in terms of an impact for a $100,000 property of a potential with the readjustment and an increase to be able to offset the fact that we've had to reduce our cash reserves a little bit. So we need to kind of set a rate, and this is going to be set until June and then July of the Conservancy Court is when this happens, and then it would be collections for 2025. So here's 3 examples of a $100,000 property with 3 different flood factors. So 2 flood factors on here are for full protection. So if you have full protection, you're behind a levee, and you had at least 10 feet of water on you from the 1913 flood, you're going to have a higher flood factor. That's why we have that 30% in the upper peach area. That's different from the second one on below because they only had a half a foot of water, and so they have a smaller flood factor. The result being the preliminary numbers that we're looking at right now is a difference of about $62 on an annual basis for a property that is $100,000 for full protection. Based on our board just recently passed, and this is going to be going to our Conservancy Court in a few weeks, passed a new spending authority for capital of $34.5 million. So this still has to go through the court, and then a rate would need to be set. For the sake of discussion and analysis, I'm just using 1%. If it was a 1% capital assessment, that property that is fully protected and had 10 feet of water would be paying about $105 per year for a capital assessment so that we can make the repairs we're talking about. Now, so the second one would then have about $22 a year towards capital improvements. And these are kind of spread out throughout the whole system, a little bit of levees, a little bit of dams, some channel work that needs to get done. We're going to be using more of a risk-based analysis so that we're addressing the highest risks first. The third example I have here is the partial protection area. Again, those would be in those other maps that we saw would be the bluer areas north of the or south of the cities that don't have levees. They're just protected by our upstream dams. They're looking at about a $7 a year increase for maintenance and a $10 per year cost for capital improvements. In terms of where our individual property assessments come from, most of it is from Montgomery County, then Butler County, and Miami. When we look at projections of what a projected 2.78% on maintenance and a 1% on capital, about 88% of the individual assessments are less than $340. And so, again, just wanted to share that illustration with you as well. I'm going to move on to unit assessments, and again, those units are counties and municipalities. So again, counties and municipalities are exempt from individual assessments, so we're not assessing you based on this building or utility properties or other government properties that you have. The way that we assess units of government are the fact that you have public streets and utilities that are serving those flooded areas, that a portion of those are used to calculate the assessment. And it's so that you can have uninterrupted services during those floods. You don't have to have emergency services responding to river flooding, that are impacting your streets because our levees and our dams are holding back that water. So I've got some preliminary numbers. Again, these are benefits. So overall, within all 5 counties, our benefits have increased because, again, our property values have increased. And so within the city of Moraine, you have about almost $2 million worth of benefits in terms of how deep the water was in 1913, and based on the property values in 2023, those benefits are calculated to be about $3 million. And again, what you're really probably focused and interested in are these numbers, and that is our preliminary projected unit assessments for Moraine. You currently contribute about $42,000 for flood protection on maintenance, and the projection at 2.78 is would result in an increase to about $84,000 a year for flood protection from the Great Miami River with our dams, with our levees. To be able to make the capital improvements that we need to make to be able to spend the $34.5 million district-wide, Moraine would be contributing about $30,000 a year for those capital improvements that we need to make. Like I said, we're trying to get some of this state capital funds. We're also putting in some applications tomorrow to FEMA, to the High Hazard Dam grant program. The state of Ohio has about $38 million there. We're also trying to secure some federal funds to help offset the cost to the local individuals and units of government. But we know that we can't do it just on grants, and we need to be able to have that support. So this is just a time frame. Right now, we're in the late January time frame. On February 9th, we have our Conservancy Court meeting. They're going to be considering a resolution, confirming, hopefully, we'll be considering the resolution from our board that requests the establishment of the capital spending authority of $34.5 million. Then we would have our Board of Appraisers needs to certify the appraisal record. That's going to be public noticed. Folks will have 30 days to file an exception. An exception is something like an appeal where they can appeal their benefits if they don't believe their property flooded, or if they don't believe that their property value is correct. That's something they do at the county auditors, but we're looking at, did they actually flood? And we have those historical records that we use to verify that and share that. At that time, so generally in the April-May timeframe, we'd be wrapping that process up. There's a magistrate that's appointed by the Conservancy Court to have a hearing on all of the exceptions. And then in June, we anticipate our board would be establishing a rate, and then that goes to the Conservancy Court. And again, the rates that I shared tonight are just preliminary. Nothing's final until it goes through this process, but just for the sake of sharing potential numbers, that's why I've used those numbers of 2.78 and 1%. We do have some ongoing outreach such as this, as well as some open houses. We're going to have an open house in Dayton, as well as Troy and Hamilton. That one's not on here yet, but we are trying to just do some outreach so that people are aware of this, because again, the whole point is to ensure that we have thriving communities up and down the river and we are free from flooding. So at this point, I'll take any questions, and thank you for your time.
So it does not go to the voters?
This does not go to the voters, no. It goes, the judges are the elected officials that determine that.
And how do they get in touch to say that they don't agree with this?
Yes,
Just
so
on-
we're gonna have something on our website, so that we'll have the
Some
exception.
people don't have computers, so what are you planning on that?
Yep, and so they could come to our office. We can provide communities with the exception form. They could either fill out that form, bring it to our office, mail it, and it's a 30-day process to receive those exceptions.
Could we have the papers here so they don't
We
have to come
we
to
can
your
provide that,
office?
yep. And we can provide you with, other, more of these fact sheets and whatnot that, like, if, I believe that we are going to have a QR code. Maybe these don't have the QR code, so we'll have updates of these with QR codes that'll take you right to, we already have the web page there right now. If you go on the top bar, but like you said, not everybody has web page.
Right.
But we will be able to, somebody could call and we could walk them through what their assessment is going to be. Because, we're going to have we have staff that are going to be trained to take calls and answer questions.
Any other questions from? We thank you very much for
Okay.
coming tonight.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Now we are going to go into reports. Finance Committee, anything to report? Finance Director, anything to report?
Yes, thank you. I have 3 items. The first one is the December 2023 Finance Director report, but I was planning on not providing any comments on that and just going to the 2023 summary, if that's okay. So the next one is let me flip to it, the 2023 financial summary. Just wanted to go over real quick, just snapshot on how we ended up at the end of the year for our finances. So this document, will be on our website. Also, our budget materials and things like that. If people do want to come to the office, we have copies of that available as well. So for the year, our gross revenue was just over $40.5 million, and so what that means for our revenue budget is that we collected a little bit more than our revenue budget. So that was good news for us. The net revenue, so net meaning that's revenue that's collected that does not include interfund transfers or payments to other funds that we do have to make. That is actually $30.8 million, and we budgeted $27 million. So again, that shows the the strength of our revenues for 2023. Our income tax made up 80% of our revenues. So it just gives everyone a picture on how important our income tax is, and I know everyone here understands that, but the visual hopefully can show everyone how important that is, and then also just the breakdown of some of our other revenues. In the general fund, our income tax makes up 89% of our revenue, so that's very important there. For the general fund, we collected $27.8 million, and we budgeted $23.5. So again, for the general fund, our revenues were over what we were planning to collect for the year. If we flip over to page 4, there's a graphic there with the income tax collections. For 2023, we collected $25.3 million in income tax, and you can see the positive trend that we've experienced here over the last number of years. So that's very good news for us. Moving on to expenses, we started the year with a initial budget of $47.9 million, and we actually through the year we actually reduced the budget to $44.7 million, and of the $44.7 million, we spent 74% of our budget. So this shows our conservative spending. If we don't need to spend it, we don't. So we do a very good job with that. There's a graphic there just breaking down the types of expenses for the year. We spent 43% of our expenses were on personnel, which is very common for governments. And then another large chunk of our expenses are interfund transfers there, and as well as services and our other operating expenses. Our projects were over $5 million in various projects and investments that we're making in the community, and also our equipment. For the year, moving on to the general fund. Our general fund was 22% below budget for the year, which is very good news as well. The fund balances, flip over to page 6. They have increased steadily over the years, and so we're currently at $50.2 million for the year, or at the end of the year, and you can see 85% of that, or $42.7 million, is in the general fund. So I just wanted to provide a snapshot of our ending year numbers, and so if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sounds like you did a good job.
Yes.
All right,
Joe?
thank you. And the last item, the third one, is last week, I was notified that we received the Government Finance Officers Award Certificate of Achievement again for the 37th year in a row for our 2022 financial statements. So this award is for the quality of our financial statements, but of course our financial statements are made up of thousands of transactions that we do every year that are audited, and the statements are audited, and so those statements are really just a representation of a lot of hard work from my department as well as all of our departments, just trying to be consistent and just do an excellent job in maintaining our finances.
You do that very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Anyone have any questions of Dawn? We're going, Committee of the Whole, do you have anything to report?
Yes, our last meeting on January 11th, the meeting following this.
City Manager, anything to report?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing beyond the written report unless there are questions.
Law Director, anything to report?
Mayor, I just have one item. That's a request to add Resolution 8018-24 to the agenda. That's a resolution approving the engagement of Coolidge Wall as special legal counsel with respect to legal services in connection with nuisance abatement. As you may recall, at the January 2nd meeting, council adopted a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the land bank in order to address some of these nuisance abatement properties. So we felt it appropriate, after discussing with Coolidge Wall, they are the counsel for the land bank, that this would be appropriate in order to facilitate communication between us and them in order to address the legal issues that come up with respect to that. And as indicated in the resolution, Coolidge Wall's fees will be paid by the land bank. So the request is simply to have a motion and vote to add that to the agenda.
I make a motion to be added to the agenda.
You've heard the motion. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes. And then I have Mayor's Court report. For the month of December on 2023, the gross revenues for Mayor's Court was $15,485. After various expenses and disbursements, a total of $11,210 was deposited into the general fund. And I have nothing else to report at this time, so we will go into business.
Ordinance 2155-24, an ordinance establishing a maximum age limitation for an original appointment as a police officer to the Moraine Police Department in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 124.41.
This ordinance would establish a maximum age limitation of 50 years of age for an original appointment to the police division in order to attract a broader range of potential police officer applicants. This is on for a first reading. Second reading and final adoption will be at the February 8 regular council meeting.
Resolution 8016.8016-24, a resolution approving construction of improvements to Germantown Pike, State Route 4, an agreement with the Ohio Director of Transportation for said construction, and appropriating funds for said project.
This motion allows for an agreement with the Ohio Director of Transportation for pavement improvements to State Route 4 within city limits. This is a budgeted item. Motion to approve.
You've heard the motion. Is there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Resolution 8017-24, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Montgomery County Microfilming Board for services and supplies for 2024.
This resolution approves an annual agreement with Montgomery County Microfilm Board for services and supplies. This is a budgeted item.
You've heard the motion. Is there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Resolution 8018-24, a resolution approving the engagement of Coolidge Wall Company LPA as special legal counsel to provide legal services to the city in connection with nuisance abatement.
This resolution authorizes an agreement with Coolidge Wall Company LPA for legal services relating to nuisance abatement matters in conjunction and cooperation with the Montgomery County Land Bank. Motion to approve.
You've heard the motion. Is there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes. And do we have anyone appearing before council tonight? Nobody? Okay, we will go into any other business. Fire Department, anything to report?
Nothing to report, ma'am, thank you.
Police Department, anything to report?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Building and Maintenance Department, anything to report?
No report, ma'am, thank you.
Street Department, anything to report?
No report, ma'am, thank you.
City Planner, anything to report?
No report, thank you.
Parks and Recreation Director, anything to report? Come on.
The only thing I have is I updated the Payne Rec Center for the primary polling in March. So that will be March 19th, just so everyone can put that on their calendars. So, thank you.
City Manager, anything further to report?
I have nothing further, Mayor, thank you.
Law Director, anything further to report?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Finance Director, anything further to report?
Nothing further, thank you.
Clerk of Council, anything to report?
I have nothing. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Allen, anything to report?
Yes, I'm not to repeat again. Seniors are really appreciating the new furniture. And I received lots of comments about it yesterday. So it's very nice, and they have utilized it for their sitting around all. And so they're really pleased with it. Thank you.
Ms. Marcus, anything to report?
No report.
Ms. Witt?
I'd like to congratulate the 4 police officers that took the oath of office, welcome them to the city of Moraine. I'd like to thank Nate Buchanan for being here tonight. We finally have someone to keep sharing company. Thank you. And I'd always like to appreciate my thanks to the police and fire departments and the streets and the parks and all of our departments. They do a fantastic job. And during the cold spell, I prayed every day that they'd be safe because the weather was brutal. Thank you for a job well done. That's all.
Mr. Miller, anything to report?
Just want to thank the finance director and his staff on their award again. Great job, thank you.
Mr. Doherty, anything to report?
Just that I want to reach out and again thank the Parks Department. Came out to the live action Clue that was put on this past Saturday, and it was a lot of fun. It was good to get out, even there was a little bit of snow and ice out on the roads, but got out, enjoyed ourselves, also enjoyed the new furniture there too, and it's a great improvement. Thank you.
Mr. Burchett?
No report, thank you.
Okay, and in my report, I would like to congratulate the 4 new police officers that we just got today and swore in, and hopefully, and our police department needs more officers, lots more officers. Congratulate Dawn on your achievement award, since you got an award at our last meeting.
Another award.
Wow, you're really racking them up, you and your finance department. I'd like to thank who has come to our meeting tonight to listen to it. And I would also like to thank the Miami Valley Communications Council for broadcasting this meeting live as well as future rebroadcast. And this regular council meeting is adjourned at 6:53. Who won?
Are they doing yours or